So I've been applying to become an actor in Alberta. But the thing is, the number of acting gigs, it's pretty slim in terms of like what's available through the agencies and things like this. And the way that acting works in Alberta, it's basically unionized, and that can be good. You get some good acting gig, and you get paid well for a good stint. It's got to be incredibly rewarding. I think that's possible in the long run, but I think right now the season is bad in particular, and not to create like a negative cast a negative shadow on it, but it's hard times, and so in my opinion, instead of waiting for, and there was like what the industry was relying on American money to come in. But now, because of the tariffs and all this, the American film industry is staying in America and they're filming in America instead of using BC or Alberta. And so the local industry, the local movie industry is hurting in terms of providing acting jobs for the union actors and whatnot. So, in my opinion, um, it's better to just write a script. It's better in the climate like this. It's better just to make your own movie, write your own script, make your own movie, and I think that's what I'm gonna get into. I was thinking, what if my first movie were like a sci-fi movie, and it was like kind of like about the future where we've decided to have one global army, one global federal government that's going to take care of all the people to a minimum level, and then we're also now protecting the Earth from asteroids. And so basically, the movie is from the perspective of the people that are working on this platform that's designing the asteroid protection system. So they're like living in space on some space platform, and they're having to figure out how to devise the most effective system in combating, Mount Everest size asteroids from coming in at hypersonic speeds. And so it could be a whole like, exploration. The movie is an exploration into, mankind, kind of like the themes that you get out of Armageddon, where it's like man must come together as one for the common enemy. And, it's honestly the truth. It's like there's some, I believe in this kind of karmic warpature that the less you prepare for things like this, the more likely you're going to get some damaging accident from it that you don't have the capacity to repel. Like, even likelier than if you had just prepared for it, where it's like, oh, maybe the asteroid will just miss altogether, you don't need the defense system. That's not the case. That's not the case today. And it's very dangerous. And we're wasting all this time with these battles in Eastern Europe. And maybe some of the movie will get into that, sort of like a look into the recent past and the different wars that took place for profiteering, and sort of like aging colonial empires that were still trying to grab more oil or resources for the sake of this British Empire template that no longer is as competitive as what the Chinese have with their better balance, where they have government that's merit based appointment, public sector to cost control people's basic needs, and the private sector. And so this new engine, this new design, this new better balance is why the Chinese are succeeding, while the West, in a late stage of capitalism with its out of out of proportion business class that is in charge of the government, and basically there's a marginal public sector. So people aren't being taken care of, people are being harvested, and the business class has no incentive or obligation to take care of the mass of the people. And it's the government, but the government has been co-opted. So sort of like breaking out of that dystopia, very breaking out of that late stage capitalist dystopia, coming to a singular global nation that has a decent amount of socialism in an age where you don't need people to work, where you have automation, that can basically produce everything you need. The resource extraction is automated as well. And so basically, the people, the governments will be able to afford people $100,000 basic income in the future, without them having to do any work, apartments for free, quality apartments, cost controls on food, healthcare, education, transportation, daycare, you name it. In the future, when there are no jobs to be had, the government can provide all this for the mass of the people and keep expanding the number of people it can provide it for. That's how efficient it'll get. Where's the new money coming from? Real estate sales, natural resource sales globally. And then the second part of the economy is socialism. So this is kind of like the future of the late stage capitalist economies that it figures out how to leverage its land for real estate sales to capitalize on a lot of money, which is what North America can do. Europe can figure out Europe has a lot of land as well. But yeah, like adjusting to a global world where we want to kind of um, take advantage of the comparative advantages, like where we want to be able to wherever they have the greatest demand to foster a good relationship and figure out where to meet in between so that it's the most productive trade every time, and it gets more productive all the time. So, Europe has plenty of places where it can, so you're going to have this kind of like, setting, this time period where it's like the world is really figuring out how to work together, but now you have this massive space program and they're like working on this space platform and they're trying to figure out, okay, how do we get the detection system? Number one, they need to figure out how do they get the telescopes into like concentric spherical shells that break out all the way as far as you can go, so that you have the most amount of warning time. And then you should have like, you know, nuclear weapons and drones that could basically be flying around in space, on a nuclear charge itself. The propeller is a nuclear, so it never runs out of fuel. And it's just like cruising around space and it's waiting to be sort of like activated in order to like intercept an asteroid that's somewhere on a trajectory with Earth. And if we're able to basically cook the asteroid, uh, like blow up one side of the asteroid, you'll have these like this cooking effect that will push the asteroid off course. So, but first, I think so that's the second part of the system is you're taking the human stock of nuclear weapons. So basically, all of the nuclear weapons that people hold, um, they'll be in one army. So there's going to be one global army. They're going to have all the nuclear weapons. Those nuclear weapons are now being applied to figuring out how to basically steer the asteroid out of the path of the Earth. So that's how we deal with the nuclear weapons situation. Anyway, so guys, I'm gonna leave it there. It's gonna be a very exciting movie. I encourage you to look into it once I've produced it. But it's gonna be a low budget movie, But I'm gonna do my best to make it interesting, and yeah, it's I won't necessarily need too many asteroid graphics. Maybe some CGI. I'll make a few sequences, but most of the movie is going to be some character reflection, like existential reflection, trying to get ourselves into the mentality of we are a species and we need to make sure that life survives the whole of the universe. And it's like basically it's our conduit. It's like our host here is life. And so life needs to be able to survive the universe. And how do you get it to do that? It's like you have to design systems that people can spread out into the universe. And so that's basically, it's like, and this is after an age in the turn of the 20th century, 21st century, where you're having wars, where there's all this technology, there's all this potential, but somehow they're engaged in wars. And then basically people are like, okay, never mind. They realize there's so much more money to be made in the space program. They retool these special interests to be spending money on space exploration, protection of the Earth using asteroid detection interception. So that's the kind of movie that I want to make. I think it's very timely, very, conceptually very important, and is, in my view, the best way that you get the late stage capitalist nations that have this kind of profiteering in a new direction of profiteering, which is going to be far more useful to man. That will keep us safer, more productive, and reaching for the global um, human goal. So anyway, guys, I don't know what I'm going to call the movie yet, but yeah, that's it's going to be about this team that's building asteroid defense. So um, I'm going to have to get some camera equipment. I'm going to start writing the script, and yeah, that's it for now.